Hubble recently captured an interstellar object that might be emitting its own light. If true, it could mean alien tech, even nuclear-powered alien tech. If the glow isn't just reflected sunlight, the size estimate collapses from Manhattan scale to under 100 meters. That doesn't prove it's artificial. It just makes the natural explanations a lot harder, which is why Avi Loeb, professor at Harvard, says we have to consider the object might actually be technology. Because if it's tiny but still this bright, Loeb says the light is likely coming from inside, not just from sunlight.
You now say this is not only an alien spaceship, but it's nuclear powered? Why are you saying that?
Well, thanks for having me. First, I should say that if the light that we observe from this object is reflection of sunlight, its size needs to be bigger than Manhattan Island, 20 kilometers or so. And there isn't enough rocky material in interstellar space to deliver a rock of that size earlier than 10,000 years from now. So the question is, what is it? And its orbit, the trajectory that it takes, is aligned with the plane of the planets around the sun to within 5 degrees. That's a chance of 1 in 500. And moreover, the timing.
What does that tell you? What does that trajectory tell you?
Well, it indicates that perhaps it was designed by some intelligence.
That's something steering it.
Not necessarily, but the trajectory itself was chosen to be such that this object will pass close to Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. The chance of that happening, the timing of its arrival is perfect for that, with a likelihood of 1 in 20,000. And so I'm just saying we should observe it. It doesn't look like it's a random occurrence.
Loeb said there isn't enough rocky material in interstellar space to deliver a rock that big more than once every 10,000 years. Let me explain what he means. If the glow were just reflected sunlight, this thing would have to be about Manhattan size, 20 kilometers across. But interstellar rocks that big are vanishingly rare. So rare that statistically, you'd expect one to wander through our neighborhood only once in many thousands of years. Seeing one now would be a huge coincidence. That's why Loeb prefers the idea that it's much smaller and self-luminous instead of a giant reflector. On the suggested fine-tuned trajectory that indicates it's not just some random object coming into our solar system, picture the solar system like a flat dinner plate. Most planets orbit on that thin, flat ecliptic. This object's path rides along that plate within about 5 degrees, instead of slicing in from a steep angle. Now add the timing. It threads close passes by Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, while Earth is hidden behind the sun near closest approach. Loeb's point is that combo looks less like random chance and more like a planned reconnaissance flyby. Not proof, but a good reason to get spacecraft images. This doesn't prove it's ignoring Earth, by the way. It mostly means we're blinded by the sun right when we'd want the best data of the object, which is exactly why Loeb calls the timing suspicious. Loeb isn't just tossing out a theory. He's asking NASA to go get images at the right moment. First window, early October, when 3I Atlas, which is what this object is named, swings past Mars at roughly 17 million miles. He wants the high-rise camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, that's NASA's sharp half-meter camera at Mars, to pivot and grab tight shots of the nucleus. Second window, next spring near Jupiter, where Juno, NASA's Jupiter orbiter that's been there since 2016, with a color camera called JunoCam, could try to snap frames as the object passes through Jupiter's neighborhood. Juno isn't a deep space telescope, but if the geometry lines up, even a few frames can tell us a lot. Why this matters. If either spacecraft gets a clear look at the core, we can test the key question. Are we seeing a normal sunlit dust comma or a compact self-luminous source? That's how we move from interesting anomaly to real evidence. Until then, it's a hypothesis. So the plan is simple. Point the cameras and find out.
And super quick, Avi, is there any reason to be concerned about this?
Yeah, you never know what kind of intent it has. And I think we should, in the future, have some international organization that decides how to respond to a visitor to our backyard, because that visitor may enter through the front door.
Now, just to be crystal clear, NASA's current position is simple. 3I Atlas is an interstellar comet with dust, seen by Hubble. They're not endorsing the self-luminosity idea, at least not with the data so far, which is exactly why Dr. Avi Loeb wants the high-rise camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter to take some images of it when it's in proximity, as well as the Juno, NASA's Jupiter orbiter. So that would be two different NASA systems out in space getting imagery of this object, which would be very good data. And I like that Dr. Avi Loeb is inquisitive like this, thinks outside of the box like this. Obviously, he's looking at this object through the lens of probability. In his analysis, since there's so many aspects of this object, from the trajectory to the size of it, that are low probability, he interprets that it might be a non-human intelligence spacecraft. But he's not trying to sell that, so let's not get it twisted. He's not promoting that per se. He's saying, let's investigate it and get an answer to whether that hypothesis is correct or not. And that's science. And that should not be looked down upon at all. He's a very brilliant astronomer, astrophysicist. He knows what he's talking about, and those probabilities are probably correct. So this is, no matter how you slice it, this is an anomalous object. Maybe it's an anomalous natural object, but it is not what you would expect based upon the trajectory and the size of it, as we've covered. Now, as far as an international organization that decides how to respond to a visitor, it's amazing we don't have an organization like that. Because all you need is one object at any given moment to come into our solar system that comes close enough that we get good imagery of it, and now suddenly we know that we're not alone. And all 8 billion of us have to deal with that. So why would there not be an international organization? And as Avi Loeb said, an object like that could come through our front door, not just remain in the backyard, if you will. And what he meant by that is it could come so close to Earth that everyone sees it, and it's unambiguous, and we know we're not alone. So, we need a way to respond to that scenario. So that's about it. This is really interesting. I look forward to those dates when we'll be able to snap some imagery of it. I don't have an opinion on what it's most likely to be. I'm not an astronomer. I don't need to have an opinion. But if it did end up being an object that was clearly not natural and was made by some intelligence, that would be quite an interesting way to traverse into the post-disclosure world. It wouldn't correlate with flying saucers and triangles and abductions, at least not that we could tell. So it would be like a disclosure coming from a whole different angle, if you will. It wouldn't suggest that everything we're dealing with on this planet, all the allegations are false. It would just be something in addition to what we're dealing with or potentially dealing with. So I will keep my eye on this unfolding story, and I will keep you informed as we progress. Thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can become a patron, you can become a YouTube member, you can give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all YouTube members, patrons, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.